Hello, everyone. We are continuing our discussion on Jainism. We left off with discussing what Jiva and Ajiva are. So, Jiva is the soul, the life giving spirit. It is totally pure. Ajiva is this inert, non living matter that attaches itself. It's impure and it attaches itself to the soul. So, the point of Jainism is that they are trying to free the soul from all of the matter that has attached itself upon it. So, one thing that we should note is that in Hinduism, there was this concept of monism, all reality is one. Here we see, though, that Jains believe in this pluralism, ultimately, many things. That's what reality is consisted of an infinity of jivas and an infinity of particles of matter. So, when we look at this, we break it down into two categories, soul and matter. So the entire process of human destiny is based on this duality. Salvation consists of liberation of the soul from the matter in which it is entwined. All living beings are believed to have souls, and the size of the soul is the same no matter if it is an ant or an elephant. Only the bodies that they inhabit, the forms of matter in which they are entwined, that's what the only difference is. So karma comes into play here in a different way than it did in Hinduism. Karma here is the impurity of the soul that keeps the soul bound to the cycle of rebirth into matter. So karma here is just this purely materialistic thing. All actions are believed to involve the various forms of matter. So no matter what you do, there is some type of matter being deposited onto your soul. So what matters here is the level of immorality of that action. So immoral actions such as injuring other life forms dirty the soul with this thick, heavy matter that weighs it down. Highly virtuous actions, on the other hand, deposit very light bits of residue, not even like speckles, think of them as, and that eventually leads toward purity. The moment in which total purification of the soul is accomplished, that is what is called Kavala, or moksha, or nirvana, this release of the soul from the cycles of rebirth. This is the Jain version of spiritual fulfillment. So once one has attained Kavala, the soul is no longer subject to the tarnishing effects of karma. So once you attain Kavala, also those who attain Kavala, they go on experiencing life in the body. It is at the moment of death, which certain rituals are performed at that time, that results in the complete liberation of the soul. So, right now, we are in an era of decline, according to the Jains, and liberation is not attainable. So, what they hope for is this good rebirth. So, how do they try to do this? Well, they have this concept of ahimsa that we've talked about, this non-violence to any and all life forms. This is the central standard for both monks and for lay people. They are strict vegans. They avoid meat and animal products. They avoid eating certain root vegetables because they do not want to disturb the earth. They do not want to disturb the microbes, the bugs, all of that. Some of them, I told you, walk with a broom in front of them sweeping as to not hurt or kill a bug. There's this non-attachment, this non-hatred. But the second biggest part of this is the asceticism. And that is to live this monastic life detached from the world, detached from society, living in this life of poverty, this life of chastity. And there are two different groups that do this, and we're going to take a look at them and see how they do that. So we have the first group, the first major sect, which is the Digambara, the sky-clad, those who walk around naked. They wear no clothes. They live alone, which is really rare, but mostly in very small groups. Um, I believe now, this needs to be updated, but I believe now they do accept women. However, a woman cannot reach Kavala. They need to be reborn as a man in order to have a chance at liberation, according to the Digambaras. They use their hands to receive food when they're begging. They are very simplistic. They um, really take it to the extreme, if you will. The second group are the Shvetambaras. These are the white clad folks. They wear the white robes, and a lot of times they will wear the mask over their face so they do not breathe in any microbes and do any harm. They will use bowls when begging for food and for eating. They are generally more liberal. They believe that women can attain Kavala. Um, Another major difference between the two is that the Shvetambaras believe that once one has attained Kavala, one continues to need food to go on living, where the Digambaras deny this. And while probably highly unlikely these days, the way Mahavira died was that he starved himself to death once, after 30 years of teaching, of course. Um, So those are the differences between the two major sects of Jains that exist. So then, for the monks and the nuns who decide to join one of these groups and become an ascetic, here are the 5 vows that they follow. Now, it's a very serious decision for a person to decide to become an ascetic. So with the Shvetambaras, the ages could be young as 8. And with the Digambaras, it's young adulthood. So think teenager. And that is when they are free to decide to become an ascetic. And family ties are severed. They have no communication with them. They go and live with their teacher. The initiation ceremony that marks this transition resembles a wedding because they're marrying the ascetic lifestyle. Generally, the teacher oversees the ceremony, and then that is who the new convert, if you will, the new ascetic will go and be with. They have to repeat these vows that bind them as an ascetic. They receive an alms bowl if they are a Shvetambara. They receive a whisk, which is what they used, kind of like a little broom, what they use to sweep in front of them. And they pull out 5 tufts of hair, which signifies renunciation of sexual life. I hate getting one hair caught in my glasses. I can't imagine purposefully pulling out 5 chunks of my hair. And then the last and obvious is the fasting that goes along with this. Once initiated, the ascetics own nothing. They get everything, their food, from begging. They wander more in groups today. And during the rainy season, ascetics will stay with communities of the lay Jains, those who are not monks and nuns. And this is because during the rainy season, the paths that they walk on, more life forms tend to appear. Think after a rainstorm, how many worms come crawling out of the ground. They don't want to take the chance of injuring or hurting any type of life form. So they will stay with the lay Jains during the rainy season. So as I said, here are the 5 monastic vows. Do not injure other life forms. Avoid lying. do not take what has not been given, renounce sexual activity, and renounce possession. So here we see a lot of the ethical dimension within this. Going into ahimsa a little bit more, this principle of nonviolence, there are some subclauses that fall under this when you become a monk or a nun. So you have to be careful when walking, hence the whisk. You have to be careful when you lay down your begging bowl if you have one. Inspect your food and drink prior to consuming it to make sure that there are no bugs, little bugs, or microbes that you see, and that they search their mind and their speech to avoid negative thoughts and negative words. So the centrality of ahimsa can also be seen in the relation of each other to the other four vows to this one. So for instance, the third vow, do not take what is not given, means on the most profound level to not take the life of another. The fifth vow, to renounce possession, rids oneself of the passion that comes from attachment to possessions. Passion, in turn, is thought to be the primary cause of violence. Remember back to Buddhism. Suffering is caused by desire. Here we have passion results in violence. So there are some important practical concessions that are made, however, when it comes to ahimsa. So ahimsa is considered to be violated only when the injury is accompanied by a lack of care. So your intention matters. Did you mean to do it? So if you're sweeping in front of you trying to not step on a bug, but you step on a bug, you get less ajiva attached to you because the intention was to not step on that bug. If you if you go out to hunt something, then obviously the ajiva, the matter, will be more that is attached to you. Jain violence also does not necessarily imply complete pacifism. So you're supposed to remain passive when it comes to violence. You're not supposed to hurt other life forms, humans, animals. However, if you are being attacked, you are expected to defend yourself. So if a tiger attacks you, then you are expected to defend yourself against that tiger. Okay, so we're going to stop here for right now, and when we come back, we are going to pick up with asceticism a little bit more in detail, and then we will talk about Jain lay people.